Picture this. You just got your first real promotion, the kind with a real salary, real benefits, and a number that finally makes you feel like an adult. You're standing under bright dealership lights on a Tuesday evening, staring at a brand new truck that smells like success. The paint gleams. The leather seats feel like a reward. The salesperson isn't asking whether you can afford it. He's asking what monthly payment feels comfortable. And somehow, that framing makes everything seem reasonable. This is how it happens. How most people don't wake up intending to make a financially destructive decision. They do the math in their head. The payment fits into the budget. It's within some percentage rule they once heard. They rationalize that they've earned it. And beneath all of that is something much more powerful than arithmetic. Identity. A vehicle at that stage of life isn't just transportation, it's proof. Proof that you've made it. Proof that you're no longer the broke college kid driving a dented sedan to client meetings. Marketing understands this deeply. It rarely sells horsepower. It sells status, confidence, masculinity, freedom. The mountain roads and lake weekends in commercials aren't about towing capacity. They're about who you imagine yourself becoming. But here's the quiet part no one emphasizes in the showroom. Depreciation doesn't care about your self-image. New vehicles begin losing value almost immediately. That's not controversial. It's simply how the market prices used goods. Over several years, a significant portion of what was paid often disappears, not because the vehicle failed, but because time and mileage relentlessly reprice it. Meanwhile, interest compounds in the opposite direction. You're paying for the privilege of owning something that is steadily worth less. Now, layer in the hidden costs that rarely feel dramatic on their own. Insurance premiums that reflect the higher replacement value. Fuel consumption that quietly exceeds your optimistic estimate. Tires, routine maintenance, small repairs that never seem catastrophic but always seem to arrive at inconvenient times. None of these line items are shocking individually. Together, they can reshape cash flow in ways that crowd out investing. And that's where the real story begins. Opportunity cost is one of the most underappreciated forces in personal finance. Money spent isn't just money gone. It's money that no longer has the ability to compound. Historically, diversified equity markets have delivered long-term returns that reward patience. When funds are consistently invested over decades, the growth can become exponential. The difference between investing a meaningful monthly amount and not investing it may not feel dramatic in year 1 or even year 3. But over 20 or 30 years, that gap can widen into something life-changing. What makes this uncomfortable is that both paths look similar in the short term. Two people can earn the same income, shop at the same stores, work in the same office. One drives the impressive vehicle. The other drives something practical and forgettable. From the outside, it may appear that the first person is winning. Internally, the second person may be quietly accumulating assets that generate income without additional labor. It's also worth acknowledging that none of this means someone should never buy a nice vehicle. Lifestyle choices are personal. The key difference is intentionality. If someone is already investing aggressively, building retirement accounts, maintaining an emergency fund, and the vehicle fits comfortably within long-term goals, that's a different conversation. The risk appears when the purchase is funded by sacrificing future compounding. Interestingly, many individuals who have built substantial wealth tend to separate status from spending. They often view cars as utilities rather than statements. That mindset shift can feel subtle, but it changes behavior dramatically. Wealth, in practical terms, is not what's visible in the driveway. It's the collection of assets quietly producing value in the background. There's also a psychological trap at play. Once someone commits to a large recurring payment, their flexibility shrinks. Career risks feel scarier. Entrepreneurship feels harder. Saving feels optional because the fixed obligations feel mandatory. Financial freedom isn't just about net worth, it's about breathing room. So the real question isn't whether a truck or any expensive vehicle is worth it. The deeper question is what future version of you might be trading away. Sometimes the most impressive move isn't upgrading your lifestyle the moment your income rises. Sometimes it's allowing your investments to rise first. Because years from now, no one will remember what you drove at 25. But you will absolutely feel the difference between compounding for decades and financing something that slowly faded in value. Imagine discovering that a single purchase in your 20s quietly reduced your retirement income by thousands of dollars a year. Not because you made a reckless gamble, not because of a market crash, simply because of what you chose to drive. Most people think a vehicle decision is about comfort, reliability, maybe a little pride, but over a working lifetime, it can become something much larger. The difference between spending modestly on transportation and consistently stretching for more expensive vehicles isn't just the sticker price. It's the compounding effect of what that money could have become. Let's zoom out. Transportation is a necessity. For most adults, it's non-negotiable, but there's a wide spectrum between reliable and luxurious. The financial gap between those two ends, when measured monthly, might not feel dramatic. A few $100s here, a bit more insurance, slightly higher fuel costs, routine maintenance that trends upward with complexity and size. On paper, it fits. That's the trap, because the real cost isn't what leaves your checking account this month. It's what never gets the chance to compound over decades. Historically, diversified investments have delivered positive long-term returns, though of course nothing is guaranteed. Over 25 or 30 years, even steady, moderate growth can multiply initial contributions several times over. Money that would have gone toward a larger payment instead builds assets that may eventually generate income. This is the multiplier effect most people underestimate. A vehicle might depreciate steadily over time. That's normal. Machines wear out. New models arrive. Markets adjust. Meanwhile, invested capital, given time and discipline, has the potential to grow. When you consistently choose the higher cost option for transportation, you're not just increasing expenses. You may be reducing your future earning power. There's also psychology involved. Behavioral economists call it hedonic adaptation. The thrill of a new purchase tends to fade faster than we expect. What felt extraordinary in month 1 often becomes ordinary by month 3. The payment, however, remains very real. The insurance renewal still arrives. The maintenance schedule doesn't forget. That doesn't mean no one should ever buy a new vehicle. It means the emotional spike and the financial commitment operate on different timelines. One fades quickly. The other compounds quietly. Now consider retirement. Many financial planners reference a sustainable withdrawal framework, often around 4% annually, as a way to estimate how much income a portfolio might reasonably support. Under that lens, an additional $500,000 in assets could potentially translate into meaningful annual income, not extravagance, stability, flexibility, fewer trade-offs. When viewed that way, recurring vehicle upgrades every 6 or 7 years can start to look less like lifestyle improvements and more like opportunity cost decisions. Over a 30 or 40-year career, those differences stack. Not overnight, not dramatically, gradually, almost invisibly. What makes this topic uncomfortable is that it challenges cultural norms. In many places, visible success is associated with visible consumption. A new truck, a luxury SUV, something that signals arrival. Yet surveys of high net worth households often suggest that many wealthy individuals drive practical vehicles and keep them longer than average. Not because they dislike nice things, but because they prioritize assets that appreciate or produce income over those that reliably decline in value. There's another layer here: financial stress. Large fixed payments reduce flexibility. They can limit career options, delay entrepreneurship, and narrow your margin for error. Financial resilience isn't just about net worth, it's about how much room you have to adapt when life changes. Auto lending data in recent years has shown periods of rising delinquency rates, which could suggest that some households are stretching further than they realize. That doesn't mean every borrower is in trouble. It does indicate that monthly affordability isn't always the same as long-term sustainability. Ultimately, this isn't a moral argument about cars. It's a clarity argument about trade-offs. Every dollar has a direction, toward consumption that declines, or toward ownership that compounds. Most people can't maximize both simultaneously, especially early in their careers. The question becomes less about what looks impressive today and more about what creates freedom tomorrow. No dealership will run those lifetime projections for you. No commercial will show you the alternative scenario of steady investing and early flexibility. That math is quiet, unexciting, almost boring. But over decades, boring can become powerful. And once you understand the multiplier behind everyday decisions, you start to see purchases differently. Not as isolated moments of reward, but as votes for a particular financial future.